Hi everyone, it's been a long while and I'm sorry that I wasn't able to upload any videos, but here I'm back again. Well, at this time I'm making my first cabinet. I just wanted to step up from the beginner level to the bottom line of the furniture maker level, and of course I made it with hand tools. This is actually to store my hand tools as I got some tools in the past month, but yeah, let's go back to the making process. After cutting the bolts in the dimension, I roughly flattened them so I can make a reference edge to join them. I used my new jointer plane, a Nagadai Kanna, and it's also my first jointer plane. I told you I thought I've set it up, but it still needed a lot more work to make it do the job. Then I edge glued the bolts, but I messed it up. I glued the joint ready edges outside, but luckily they jointed seamlessly. But because of this, I needed to change the bolt orientation. Anyways, I repeated this glue up process every 3 hours as these are my only parallel clamps. Now, I needed to flatten the bolts again as every bolt had a slightly different thickness before the joint. Well, this my old cheap plane works very well, but I broke the iron when doing the uradashi maintenance after this. Anyways, this is for a carcass that I need a little accuracy, so I used the jointer plane to be sure it's flat. I don't know, it kinda works, but I just can't have the right feeling yet. Then I cut them into the width and the length that I needed and make them ready for cutting joints. To be honest, it's not big furniture, but it's the biggest furniture I've made, and every process took a longer time than I expected so far. Moving on to the joints of the carcass, I used the moving Philister plane to cut rivets. As you probably noticed, I got bunches of new planes and it's as a determination of myself to enjoy hand tool woodworking more, but none of them are properly adjusted yet. I mean, I adjusted them, but this is the first time I use them, so just in case, I cut inside the line and clean the edge with chisels. Then I cut the grooves for a backboard. This time I decided to do it with just a router plane because if I put the fence on the base, it's pretty much the same thing as a grooving plane. The thing is, instead of shaving along one path, as far as you cut the short path and go backwards, it's reducing the resistance of each shaving and you can deepen the groove pretty easily. And now I quickly chop the mortise for the top board. I haven't done woodworking for a few months, so it's actually made me nervous. I mean, the few months off out of just a few years woodworking experience is a bit too long. Oh, yeah, when I cut dados for the shelves, I tried to use a drill to remove majority of the waste first, and I thought it was quicker. Though the reality is, I think it doesn't make much difference as I anyway chopped them with a chisel to finish. Here's everybody's favorite dovetail. People often debate over either cutting pins first or tails first, but I like marking both pins and tails and work on them together. It's basically I don't like going back and forth between saws and chisels, and I also want to be better at marking. Though the thing is, the relevant measuring tool for this size I have is just this. Anyways, this board is about 14 inches wide, but somehow I made its okay level dovetail, especially it's just the bottom of the cabinet. I overcome a fear to work on the whiteboard, but I think I at least need a panel gauge for the better result for this size dovetail. Then this is my new finishing plane, but again, I didn't feel right about it. I was kind of confident as I spent already a good amount of time on setting this new plane, but this is the reality. Anyways, now that I finished this project, I finally found what was wrong with my planes. And not only this plane, but another plane worked pretty good now. Then I glue up the carcass. I ended up buying some cheap long clamps for my future projects, but at this time I did it in 2 separate times because I didn't have enough clamps. Oh, one thing I don't usually do is to make the carcass face flush. I usually make a slight gap between vertical bows and horizontal bows because it's easy to chamfer without special joints. But I see a lot of American furniture just goes flush, so I wanted to try it in this way and see how I can manage it. Now I work on the door and I resawed this ambrosia maple, and here's an accident. I broke my Moxon vise. What happened was the cherry sawdust condensed with lube oil jammed in the screw, and it wouldn't turn. So I ended up using a clamp to hold the jaw to resaw. Then I quickly get ready with the door frames. I used the same thickness boards for the stiles and the rails, so I decided to use a haunched tenon with a miter cut on the inside corner. This will make it easy to chamfer the inside corners. I then cut the grooves just like how I did for the carcass. I started to like this method. Like I mentioned, as long as you control the resistance of the shaving by clearing the front side first and going backwards, you can cut the depths with the router plane easily. And, well, this is resawed panels and they look nice, but the thing is, I messed it up too. It was my lack of attention, but let me blame it on my broken Moxon vise for convenience. Anyways, I glued the insert panels only to the centerpiece so it's not wobbling inside the door frame, yet they can expand and contract. Moving on to the drawer, I decided to go with a half-blind dovetail with edge banding, which is the style I like. However, in the process of cutting the joints on the drawer front, I hit the mineral deposit that was so hard and the front panel got a crack, so I decided to cut the bow tie. The thing is, a bow tie inlay isn't difficult as long as you know the basics. I have a video to show how I cut the bow tie in the description, but here's the thing. Please do not use a lighter color bow tie on the wood like a cherry that is not dark wood, and the other way around if you want a perfect bow tie. When you put oil, the edge lines sometimes get darker and it may bother you. I think mine was okay and there wasn't visible gap, but still, this is after applying the oil. Aside from the corner I stupidly chipped while a finishing plane, depending on the angle, I can see the darkened lines. Anyways, now I'm adjusting the drawer size, but I know you see the gap on the joint. This is actually too much because I suck, but I intentionally made the gap so I can be sure the dovetails are not just there, but they really pull the drawer front to get together. I wouldn't make the gap if I don't plan to do the edge banding. I don't know, this is one of my favorite things from the Sashimono style. It's not as difficult as it looks, so I recommend you to try it. Only the thing is, it's still an extra work and I had to do the finishing plane on the drawer front before the edge banding. And one more thing I learned is, If you don't use metal rails for a drawer like me, but you want to make it have a somewhat smooth opening yet tightly closing, you can make the drawer front tight, but the end of the drawer box loose. I think I loosened the end too much, but when it's almost closing, I can feel the air pushing it back and softly closing. Okay, so it's almost ending, but I still have to make a base. As I was rushing to finish at this point, I just cut the box joint and yeah, I made the door exact fit to the carcass. So now I needed to trim 1/8 of an inch on all 4 sides. At first, I sliced only the sides so I can easily fit the door in the carcass and I marked the hinge locations. Then I trimmed the top and the bottom. In this way, I didn't need cuts to even out the gaps to mark. The hinge motif was easy with chisels, but sorry for my dirty nails after the sharpening. It's a little embarrassing, but that's my nail art for woodworking. At least the hinge fits beautifully. Oh, and this auto center drill thing I got for the project was ridiculous. I ended up eyeballing the center and drilled the holes. Well, I used 5/64 drill bit for number 4 screws. And then, since the carcass face is flush, I chamfered inside corners on the walls by a mini file. This is a handle piece. My approach was, first I made the shape like this and ripped the piece. Then, by using the angled surface that I made as a reference to make 90 degrees from there and chamfer the 90-degree corners. It was actually simple. And after I put oil, I screwed the base. The base has more than enough wiggle room so the wood can expand and contract. Finally, now that I put the door stopper and shelf pins inside, I put the doors to finish. And here's what I made. It took a longer time than I expected, but I learned a lot. I know it's just a tool cabinet for myself at the end of the day, but now I feel like making things more focusing on the finishing quality over the challenging aspects, so I can confidently sell my first furniture, and maybe that's my goal for the year. Oh, and let me tell you, I don't know how often I can make videos, but I'll do my best as I like doing it. And, of course, I like to communicate with my fellow woodworkers. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would be happy if you liked the video and happier if you subscribe to this channel. If you have any suggestion to my video, it's also welcome. See you!